Welcome back, dear viewers. You're still watching Nile Cruise here from the Sea Scout Club in Giza on the banks of the River Nile. Egypt is preparing, dear viewers, to announce its largest archaeological discovery in recent memory, which includes wooden and golden coffins with much of their original color preserved. Sources at the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities said the Supreme Council of Antiquities is working in the Sahara archaeological area, discovered a new major archaeological cache. Um, this is happening, of course, at the time when Egypt is getting prepared to overcome the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the tourism industry, and of course is preparing to open, has already renovated and opened a number of new museums, and is preparing to open newer ones and bigger ones like GEM, the Grand Egyptian Museum. With us now here is Dr. Mohmoud Halwagy, former director of the Egyptian Museum, the iconic, of course, Egyptian Museum in the iconic Tahrir Square, an archaeological expert. Dr. Halwagy, great pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Mahmoud Halwagy, it's a pleasure to have you with us, of course,
Thank
today in
you.
today's episode of Nile Cruise. And of course, at the start of today's episode, I'd like to ask you, of course, the recent discovery in Sahara is a major historic achievement. What can we tell our audience about this amazing achievement, sir?
What we can say, what we can tell our audience, that this achievement and this discovery is a great discovery in field of Egyptology and archaeology. Happened in Saqqara, a discovery of a cachette with a huge number of statues and statuettes, masks, burial for animals and birds, Ushabti statues. In fact, the area of Saqqara still has lot underneath. We are trying to uncover some of these treasures day by day, and not only in just Saqqara but all over Egypt. Egypt still has a lot of treasures waiting for the discovery and a new achievements in the field of archaeology and Egyptology. This great discovery happened in a time which we passed by the coronavirus, COVID-19, where the world almost hidden at homes, but Egypt still working and doing a lot of work, achievements, inaugurating some projects, renovating some archaeological sites, inaugurating new museums, not only in the field of museums and archaeological sites, but also airports, hotels, some other projects which serves in the field of tourism to help for the new season of tourism, inshallah, which will start in next October. I think all these achievements will help to increase the incoming tourism to Egypt in the next coming season, inshallah.
Sure, inshallah.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Halwagy, the Ministry of Antiquities has completed arrangements for the opening of 3 of its largest museums at a cost of 725 million Egyptian pounds. You were just mentioning the big projects and the big mega of course, aside from the museums, the big mega infrastructure projects, and even the roads and bridges that serve tourism as well. And also about GEM, what is the latest about the Grand Egyptian Museum, which was supposed to be inaugurated this year, but I guess because of COVID-19, yes, work is ongoing, but we believe that it's been adjourned, the official opening.
Concerning GEM, Grand Egyptian Museum, it was planned to be inaugurated in October 2020. But according to circumstances and COVID-19, it was
Postpone.
postponed to 2021. And it will be a huge celebration for the gym.
You
And
understand that presidents and heads of
presidents,
states
prime
and
ministers,
yeah,
high
yeah, yeah,
officials,
will be invited here.
kings,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so, and it will be a great celebration.
Okay, go ahead. The
Yeah,
other
the
question,
three museums. Yeah, the three museums.
Other museums like Sharm el Sheikh
Mm,
Museum,
mm.
also to serve the visitors who comes only to visit like
The Red
the
Sea,
site,
the
the Red
Sinai.
Sea,
Yeah,
Sinai, Sharm el Sheikh, and they will never plan to come to Cairo. So the museum will serve for this part of tourism. Uh,
great idea
and
as well.
also Hurghada already
Yeah,
inaugurated,
yeah,
and this also will serve for the people who comes especially for Hurghada,
yeah.
for entertainment, for
Yes, leisure,
diving,
leisure. Yeah,
leisure.
yeah.
And the
There's
third,
also the yeah,
Kafr Sheikh,
yeah.
Kafr Sheikh Museum. It's a regional museum.
Mm.
You know that Egypt has more than 27 regional museum service for each governorates, not only for the citizens, Egyptian citizen, but also for touristic purposes. And also the regional museum helps in increasing the awareness of the Egyptian concerning the civilization, history, archaeology, because this will help the citizen. If they acknowledge about this civilization, they will conserve, they will preserve, they will help in tourism, and the
They
and
will have
tourism,
more affiliation and more loyalty and more love
and how loyalty, of course, and how to receive the visitors, which is the main essential case, because the Egyptians themselves they give a message for the visitors, and the visitor, when they go back to their countries, they have a great impression about Egypt, about Egyptians, about culture of Egypt. They already know everything about Egypt before they come, but they will be loaded with another message of the Egyptian, which will help other people to come to Egypt, which is the dream of each person all over the world. Since they are kids in schools and kindergarten, they dream to come to visit such a wonderful place all over the world, the land of Egyptians, which
the land
is
of history, the land of treasures.
treasures,
Yeah.
and also the credle of religion
Civilization.
civilization.
and
Okay,
religions.
Dr. Mahmoud, I'd like to ask you a question. And the Egyptian government has been very keen, as you mentioned, during the COVID, of course, experience when there was quarantine on. They did not stop working. They were working, but they were still very keen on to build new museums and to restore the existing ones.
Right.
Why do you think this decision has been taken by the Egyptian government during such a very difficult time that not only Egypt was facing, but the entire world, and it was all over the world, globally, of course?
It was very important to take such a decision by the Egyptian government and the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Archaeology, Egyptology, and Antiquities. This shows how is the Egyptian decision taker have a vision, because the government is looking forward for the next season. This season is already was dead, not only in Egypt but all over the world. But they worked very hard with a clear vision to maintain and to continue such projects and to preserve the archaeological sites and inaugurate some new museums and other projects, and continue working in both the two main major great projects, GEM, the Grand Egyptian Museum in Pyramids in Giza, and the NEMEC, the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization in Fustat. The work never stopped.
Mm.
And recently, we are preparing for transferring of royal mummies from the Egyptian Museum Tahrir Square to the NEMEC, the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization. And this also will take a place, and it will be a great celebration.
When is that supposed to be?
Date is not yet fixed, but it will be a great celebration, and royal carriages and military
Maybe before the end of the year, maybe?
within
Weeks?
month.
Okay.
But everything is ready.
Perfect.
Ready 2 or 3 months ago. But
Okay.
we're still waiting for
The
the
appropriate
decision,
time.
for the date. Oh,
Right. Dr. Halwagy, I wanted to ask you about the Royal Chariots Museum
yes.
in Bula Abu Layla, and how special will that be?
This also, it was supposed to open this year, but also postponed to
Next month, I think.
inshallah. And this also will be يعني, a nice, يعني, a better project after renovation. This museum was closed for more than 20 years under renovation and restoration, and some of these royal chariots were transferred to the citadel in a place, in a museum in the citadel. But according to the vision of the Ministry of Antiquities, all these royal carriages returned back to the Royal Carriages Museum with some great renovation and new display art, new showcases, other facilities for the visitors. The royal carriages, one of the projects which serves in the Khedivi Cairo renovation of Khedivi Ismail, and also the historic Cairo and Fatimid Cairo, Sharia al-Muaz. It's a comprehensive, I mean, it's a huge project to serve. In Cairo, also the old building of Khedive Ismail is been renovating. Tahrir Square as well. This will be a good image for Egypt, for the tourism coming to Egypt, inshallah, next October.
Okay, Dr. Mahmoud, of course, the Grand Egyptian Museum, the GEM, is going to be accounted as one of the largest and biggest museums all over the world, especially in the Middle East. And of course, it is another precious gem that will be added to our museums here in Egypt. What are some of the treasures that were recently moved to this great museum?
The most impressive and attractive objects recently moved to the Grand Egyptian Museum, the collection of the young king, the young golden king Tutankhamun, because this is the only royal tomb which is discovered intact in 1922 by British archaeologist Howard Carter. About 5,000 pieces of real artifacts for a young king and smallest royal tomb in the Valley of Kings in west of Thebes, west of Luxor. The decision was taken to remove or to transfer this collection, which is the most attractive uh, collection because of its gold treasures uh, to the new Grand Museum, because to be a kind of to attract more and more visitors to Egypt, which is, I think it's was a good idea. The collection will go there with a new type of display, new circumstances, a new condition, a better condition. I think this was a good idea. This will not affect on the Tahrir Square Museum.
You know, I was just gonna ask you this, and going through my mind is to come to you and ask you, for how long, sir, were you the director of the Tahrir Museum? From between the years of
I was a director
what?
from 2010 till 2014, and general director from 2014 until 2016.
Right. So, I mean, for years and years, you were the director. You know, Dr. Halwagy, at a time, when I was in university, for instance, when we said museum, we're going to the museum, it's the Tahrir Museum. Now we're going to have, alhamdulillah, mashallah, whoa,
Alhamdulillah.
jam and
Namek.
and Namek and many museums, including, of course, Tahrir. So I want to ask you about Tahrir. I'm happy that you said this is not going to be at the expense of the Egyptian Museum or the Tahrir Museum. So tell us, what are the plans for the museum that you directed for years?
But before you start, I answer
Yes.
Mohammed's question, Dr. Mahmoud.
Yes.
Dr. Mahmoud, it's worth to mention that during the COVID-19 and recently, we saw amazing, of course, renovation for the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir, of course, and
Right.
of course, the Tahrir Square.
Area at large, yeah.
That's right.
Square and the
Yeah.
museum were
Yeah.
renovated amazingly. I don't know about the inside. Of course, you're gonna tell us about the inside and continue Muhammad's question. But I see amazing development in this area in total.
It's good that you highlighted this, Rana, yeah.
I would like to tell you that the project of surviving or survival of the Egyptian Museum Tahrir Square started 2014. It was a great
When you were general director.
right.
Yeah.
It was a cooperation between Ministry of Antiquities and the European Union to survive the Egyptian Museum. I mean, to return the Egyptian Museum to its original condition, to renovate the walls, floors, ceilings, windows, all these infrastructure to preserve the museum itself as a building, since it was the oldest building all over the world established to be a museum. So we have to conserve this museum. Some people, they believed that with the inauguration of the gem, the Tahrir Square will be closing or will be transferred to another something else. But I would like to assure that the museum of Tahrir Square will remain as a museum forever and ever, and even some artifacts like will transfer to Gem and Nemek, like royal mummies like Tutankhamun. The Egyptian Museum in Tahrir Square houses more than 160,000 of real artifacts belonging to one only civilization, ancient Egyptian civilization.
So Tahrir will stay very, very, very special, regardless of what we move from it.
So
Right.
any tourist that comes to Egypt has to go to Tahrir Museum first before going to Jem, or vice versa, but they have to pass through the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir Square.
It's a good question, because the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities is thinking on how to promote, how to encourage the visitor to visit these three museums, Grand Gem and
Nim.
Tahrir Square,
Yeah.
by
Sir, you said the Grand Museum
yes,
and the
Tahrir
Tahrir
Square
Square
and Gem,
and the gem.
civilization,
Okay.
ancient Egyptian civilization, National Museum of Egyptian Civilization,
Dynamic.
Namek,
Okay.
Yes.
by increasing the time hours of working of the Museum of Tahrir from 9 in the morning until 9 in the evening, to give a chance for the people who visit the Grand in the morning to come in the afternoon to visit the Egyptian Museum. And there is a plans to make a Nile cruise
Yeah.
between the
So we
museums
must be there, Rana. Yes.
on
Then.
the
Yes,
board of the
uh,
River Nile,
Yeah.
which is including Coptic Museum,
Okay.
Tahrir Square Museum, and other museum, and to make one ticket for all these museums. This will promote and encourage visitors to visit all these museums.
Okay, Dr.
Great.
Mahmoud Halwagy, of course, the former director of the Egyptian Museum and archaeological expert. We thank you so much for joining us in today's episode of Nile Cruise. Thank you so much for your informative knowledge. Of course, you always add to our episodes of Nile Cruise. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Halwagi, very much. Always
Oh.
a great pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. It's a great
Thank
pleasure to meet too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Dear
Thanks.
viewers, stay with us. You're still watching Nile Cruise on Nile TV. We'll be back. Me and Mohammed Abdurrahim. Don't go away, for we have more segments coming up here on Nile Cruise.